Hi, and welcome to my session Managing and Monitoring via PowerShell. I had a session. First of all, my name is Jan Petersen, and I work at Umeå University in Sweden. I have worked with SCOM for 20 plus years. Last year, I had a session about how to monitor SCOM via PowerShell and gave you some tips on how you could optimize and help with managing your SCOM environment without using the GUI, only by using PowerShell. So I'm going to give you some more tips on that topic in this session. The agenda for today is first, I'm going to give you some more useful PowerShell tricks. And I'm also going to talk about how we use the PowerShell community PowerShell management pack and give you some tips on how you can use it or how we have used it. As I said last year, I did some tips on and scripts on how to use SCOM via PowerShell. I have uploaded those scripts, and the scripts I will be talking about today on my GitHub, github.com/janipn/scom. So you can grab the scripts there after the session. First, let's switch over to my demo environment here. There you go. First, I'm going to talk about a security topic here, and that is password rotation. And you have a lot of Ranas accounts in SCOM and so on, and you got some monitoring accounts. And the password rotation of those accounts is very important because in some cases these accounts have high admin rights in the system. So it's very important to rotate those passwords. And here I have put together a little script on how to do that. First of all, we're going to grab the domain. And then I'm going to grab all the run as accounts I have configured in SCOM. And I will grab those with the account type of SCOM Windows credentials or SCOM action account. And where the domain is the domain here. It could be that I have accounts in other domains or local accounts. Rotating the password on those will be a bit more tricky. So I haven't talked about that in the script. So we get all of those. And take counts. Count. I have 6 runners accounts in this environment. First of all, I will split them into 2 variables here. I have the action accounts and the Windows credential accounts. So here I will then loop through all the Windows credential accounts one by one, and I will generate a password, 21 characters long. I will type out new password for the account, and I will convert it to a secure string, and I will fetch the Active Directory users and set the new password on that account. After the account is updated in the Active Directory, I will move on to SCOM and fetch the runners account there. and update the credential to the same password. That's for the Windows credential account. I can loop to this first. And here I will get a notification because I see that account that's called SCOM Actions Windows Credential. It has an action account as well. The first one here I loop to is a Windows credential. So then it have to update that password as well. Because you can have both the same account could be both action account and a Windows credential account. So here in this script, after I update the account, I update the runners account as well. After I've done that, I go down here and I loop through the action credentials. Or the action accounts. And here it's important that I use, or actually that I don't update the password again on the Windows credentials. So I do the same check here to see if there's a runners account that has the same credential. It's important so they don't get different passwords on the accounts. So now I loop through both of those, both the Windows credential accounts and the action accounts, and updated the password to the ones listed here. It could be that you're using these accounts on some other platform. You could perhaps use it on a service account. Then you have to go in and update the password on the service account as well. So it's pretty convenient script to have to update your run as and action account credentials. Moving on here. Next thing I'm going to talk about is SCOM user roles. Last year I talked about how to check that you're not having user accounts on your subscription list that's not in use still or not in use anymore. Here we're going to look at the SCOM user roles as well. And here first we're going to grab all the SCOM user roles we have in the system. We're going to grab the domain. Same thing we did the other one, where we updated the passwords. And then we're going to get today's date minus 365 days, so that we have a time span to look at. And then we're going to loop through all the users. That means all the SCOM user roles. And then we're going to grab the Active Directory users and check if the last logon date for that account is less than a year ago. And if that is so, then we're going to print out that user. And we run And here I see all my SCOM user roles. I see that this user, Hidesita 001, has a last logon date that's blank, never logged on, and it isn't enabled. So I would say that this user I could probably remove from my SCOM user roles. And here I have a user called SCOM API. Last logon was almost 10 years ago. So, but this one is enabled, so I could probably remove this one as well. And here's the user test 567, also with a blank last logon date, but it's enabled. So this one could also probably be removed. And then we're going to move on to how to create a new SCOM user role. And here I'm gonna use the command add SCOM user role, and I will create a, I could create this one, read write. Oh no, it's read only. Read only app team. And I have an app called, perhaps, I would call it Scomaton. Type. So I will name it read only app team Scomaton. And I will display name the same. I will say that this SCOM user role is a read-only operator, and description read-only access for the application team Scomaton. And then I will add this member to that role. So first we do this part then, add the SCOM user role, get the member, and add that one to this one. We do this, that first, and then we add the member. Then we could scope this SCOM user role to group. In this case, I have a SCOM group that's called app team. So I get the SCOM group. And then I set the scope for this role I just created to the group scope group. Like that. And then I create a SCOM user role. So this is a little about how you can handle your SCOM user roles. We just check like this. If you do this, you can see all the users I had added to this. Moving on. Last year, here's another follow-up for last year's session. I talked about the gray agent curse and how I could trigger the reset SCOM health service state. I fetched all the gray agents and then I run the task that resets the health service. That would work in most cases, but if the health service isn't responding at all, then the task won't run on that computer. Then you have to restart the health service completely. And here's an example on how to do that. And in this case, you have to have access to run the invoke command on those servers where you want to restart the help service. So if you haven't had the firewall opening for that, then this command won't run as expected. So first of all, I will run this get SCOM class where monitoring object, SCOM class agent where monitoring object is available equals false. And then I run a for each object on that one and invoke a command on that computer that restarts the help service. In this case, I don't think I have any agents that aren't available. So yeah, actually I had one, Q server. It's a test environment, so that server is probably not up and run, not available anymore. So this is another way to do that, how to reset the health service. But as I said, it requires that you can invoke a command from the server you're running this command on, probably the SCOM server or some management server. You have to have network access from that one. And next here, we're going to talk about old management packs. You probably installed a management pack a long time ago, perhaps for SQL Server 2005. Don't have any of those anymore. So the management pack hasn't been updated and could probably remove it. I will talk about perhaps an easy way to do that. First of all, I do this get date and subtract 3 years from today's date. And then I fetch all the SCOM management packs that hasn't been modified in the last 3 years. So then we'll get the result here. I can see that I have a Hewlett-Packard Enterprise OneView management pack installed in 2023 or modified. So from this list, I would then check if any of these management packs are still needed or not. We have a lot of built-in management packs here in SCOM that hasn't been updated for a long time. So those will still have to remain here, but other ones could probably be removed. Here we have the SQL Server. I see that we haven't updated that in this test environment for a long time. Here, I'm gonna just quickly go back to my PowerPoint here. And I'm just gonna give you a tip about a blog post by Kevin Holman. In my script, you just get the last modified date of the management pack. But Kevin Holman has built a script that checks every instance that management pack discovers and see if you have any instances that are being discovered by that management pack. And if that count is 0, then you could be pretty sure that you could remove that management pack. Just a tip, you just Google for Kevin Holman and unused management packs, and you will find it. So back to this one then. Next thing we're going to check here is end of life. And since you have a lot of information in SCOM, you have operating system versions, you have SQL Server versions, you have a lot of info in SCOM, so it's more like a CMDB. So if I use that data and then run that against a database that contains information about end of life on the system, and in this case, I have used a site called endoflife.date. They have a comprehensive database of end-of-life information you could use. In this case, there's an issue that this test environment doesn't have an internet connection, so I can't run this command, the invoke rest command, against the end-of-life database. So I have done some preparations here and downloaded the JSON file from another server instead. And then I created this JSON file and saved it on my server instead. So we're going to do this. First of all, I'm going to grab all the server operating system on this server. And if I had a server here that had internet connection, I could just run this invoke rest method against the end-of-life server and fetch all the products with the tag Windows Server. But instead, I need to do this JSON import of the file I have. So if we looked at the info we got back from this one, I have a result here. And just check on that one. We have this. We have the label Windows Server. And then under releases, we have all the different releases of Windows here. And we can see here then we have Windows Server 2000 long time service channel, release date 2002/17, and it was end of life from 2010. End of sales 2005. So from this info here, I can then match that from the info I have in SCOM. First, I create an empty variable here, end of life. And then I will loop through all the server operating systems here and pick out the display name. And oh, I done some typo here, I see. No, that's correct. Take the display name of the server operating system and then remove the name Microsoft, the name data center, and standard from that display name. Because if I check here, server OS, the first one, dot display name, it will be like this, Microsoft Windows Server 2025 data center. And if I check in this list I have here, it doesn't say Windows Server data center, it just says Windows Server and the version number. So I have to remove this redundant information here, Microsoft and data center. Otherwise, the name won't match. After that, I will then match with the label. The label is this one. And get the end of life date. That one. So if I run this, and let's see what I got in this end of life variable here. I got my server, its name I just typed there. I have a server 2019, end of life 2029, and a couple of 2025s and 2022. And I can see that none of them are end of life yet. So we're fine here. then you could perhaps do a SCOM monitor. We had a PowerShell community management pack that does this every now and then alerts on if there are any servers that are close to the end of life date. You just change the thing you want to look at, the parameters to pick out. In this case, I just took the date, so I could pick out a date parameter here and see if anyone is close to their end of life date, and then create an alert on that one. Next thing here, we're going to move on to SQL Server. And here I would do the same thing here. I would do an invoke REST method against the product Microsoft SQL Server. And like I said before, this server doesn't have internet connection, so I have to take my prepared file here instead. It's an import, result, and releases. And then I can see here that we have SQL Server 95, Service Pack 3, version 6.0. And I have a lot of these. I can do like this instead. Label. Oh. And then I have the list here. I see that SQL Server 2025 is end of life in 10 years. And Server 2022, code name Dallas, end of life 23. So here I do the same thing. I will fetch all my SQL Server instances from SCOM. And I don't need that one. And then I will pick the version number. That's what I have that I can match on. If I check in the database from end of life, I could see that the name here, name, has the version number 70. If I go back here, you see that label contains sometimes a version number and sometimes a name, but in SCOM I have this version 14, 15, and so on. So I have to match on that field. So first I remove the extra numbers, so I just have the full version number here. And then I match those from the information I have in SCOM. Then we run this one. On time today, I think. That. And then I see I have a version 15. That's SQL Server 2019. The end of date. And here I have one old server that is running SQL Server 2016, and probably I see that there's a lot of dates here. Oh, here it matched on several versions. I guess Service Pack 1, 2, and 3. So in this case, I could probably have added the next version here to get the exact version of SQL Server 2016. So this one would probably have to be checked up. And same thing here, you could do a PowerShell community management pack script here to have a SCOM monitor pick up if any of your servers are getting close to the end of life date, and then do actions on that. But as I said, you need to have access to internet from the server to fetch this information. That was all of the scripts I was going to show you. And if you go back to this one, password rotation, I could give you a tip on that one as well. And once again, Mr. Kevin Holman has a blog article on how to update the service accounts for SCOM and the password for those, and how to do that in a script way as well. So you could look up that as well. Moving on here. Oh, I have to close. The community management pack. So we have done a couple of scripts that we use for monitoring our SCOM or our environment, and most things you could do via standard management packs, but in some cases they just don't match what you want to know. So we have, via the community PowerShell management pack, created some own monitors to do that. And here are some of those that we have used, and maybe this could give you some tips on how you could monitor your own environment. The first one was when we have a backup software that it's not really backup software, it's a script that creates a folder structure with different dumps that application. And there are management packs that could check for file size and file count and so on. But in this case, we found that we needed a bit more information to alert on and get it more centralized, so kind of saying. And what we did was that we ran a PowerShell script that checked the number of folders in that backup folder. And if the count of the folders were insufficient, we alerted. And then we checked each of those subfolders size. And if the size were below expected value, we alerted. and if the number of backup files in that folder were insufficient, we also alerted, or if any of the files were of 0 size. So then we could build a pretty good alerting system on that backup, because the script that did the dumping couldn't really say if the backup went okay or not. He just created the files and hoped that everything was dandy. Next thing we used the MP4 was for monitoring our Active Directory. The mentioned pack per Active Directory, well, it kind of works, but we found that in some cases it wasn't enough. So we created our own little script that looped through all the servers and checked that the port was open. First of all, we fetched all the domain controllers, and we did a test to see if port 389 and 636 and 445 were responding on those servers. And then we did a quick check of the time servers on them to see if the time were same or roughly the same on all 4 servers, or how many you now have. And then we also ran the get AD computer and get AD user commands to see if we could find an object that we have specified. And if any of those checks didn't complete successfully, we alerted. Then we could be pretty sure that the environment was up and running, instead of counting on the status of the management pack in SCOM. Next thing, this isn't really an issue after 2025, I think, but we had a couple of servers that were running on a hypervisor, and when they booted up, they didn't have a network connection really. So the firewall profile went to public instead of domain, and then it blocked some connections. And one thing to fix that with is by setting the network location awareness to delayed start. But in some cases that didn't help. So it didn't help when a server lost internet connection for a while or something like that. Then it could jump into the public domain profile. So we created a PowerShell script that fetched the current active firewall profile from that server. And if the server was a member of a domain, we also checked that. It alerted if the active profile was public. Another thing we have done that is it's actually something happening right now. It's the secure boot certificates expiry. We did a script that checked for the registry keys that are connected to this. And we checked that the update value of those were the things we expected. No errors or something like that. It's not a complete solution, but we just thought that it would be good to see if we have some information at least on the status of the secure boot certificates. That was 4 of them that we have used. And with that, I say thank you. I hope you enjoyed my session. and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day and all the sessions coming up. Thank you.